Oh. Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kim va Parerishvaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatchana. Hariom and greetings from Niagara Falls. The most significant impediment from us feeling independently joyous is known as Viparita Bhavana. Bhavana means feeling or identification. Viparita means erroneous or wrong. Viparita Bhavana makes me feel that I am separate from infinity, divinity. And this is why in our culture, in our methodology, Nididhyasana, which is shortened to dhyana, is the antidote, is the correcting agent to Viparita Bhavana. Nididhyasana means Nitaram Dhyaihi. Dhyaihi means to think. Nitaram, perpetually. We all know in a simplistic sense, as you think, so you become. If you only think, Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Brahma Asmi, that will become your bhavana. You will feel this. You will identify with this. For a bhakta, bhaktas like us, sometimes we feel like we are undeserving of the experiences in our lives. If we reflect on all of our bhagya, suppose you have a supportive family. Suppose you haven't had to go through any traumatic experiences. You feel like you don't deserve this. I shared this in a different way last week, that the weight of our papa, the heaviness of our wrong thinking, speaking, acting, makes me feel like I don't deserve what I have in my life, what I am in my life. A bhakta may feel this, but a bhakta also knows that his Bhagwan is Sulabha. Sulabha means accessible. Our Bhagwan is accessible independently, accessible through our Shastra, accessible through our Sadguru. And so, whenever you have this sense of, I don't deserve this, specifically in reference to any negative notions you have about papa or wrongdoing, since Bhagwan is accessible, give this to Bhagwan. Whatever is holding you back from being infinite, being divine, give this to Bhagwan. The completion of Bhagavatam is Bhagavataha idam. Bhagavata idam, where you feel you belong to Bhagwan. It would be inaccurate to say that Bhagwan doesn't deserve this or that, correct? Bhagwan is the one who creates, who conserves, and so on. Feel that you belong to Bhagwan. Srimad Bhagavatam essentially has 13 sections. These sections are, I've tried to share them in a system where they all end in TION, so it's easier to remember. You can write a song about this, okay? Glorification. That was section 0, Mahatmya. Qualification, application. Those are the beginning skandhas. Once that's set up, the remaining 10 are more technical. If you search subjects about Bhagavatam, these last 10 will come up, not the first 3. Creation. Diversification. That is skandha 4. Position. Number 6, protection. 7, inclination. 8, intensification. From dharma to sat dharma. 9, disidentification. 10, absorption. 11, the skandha we're in now, liberation. And 12 is consumption. Some describe that as destruction, dissolution, consumption. What we are to understand from these 13 subjects, because they can easily be externalized. What am I supposed to do with position? This is our journey from Viparita Bhavana to Aham Brahmasmi. It starts with the glorification of your nature, and consumption is to be that nature. Perhaps put more simply, one of Acharya Shankara's most famous teachings begins with Satsangatve. And what does that teaching end with? Starts with satsang, ends with Jivan Mukti. That's exactly what these 13 subjects are about too. Glorification is satsang. See how this satsang continues into Rishi Shaunaka asking these 6 questions. Then Raja Parikshita and Rishi Shuka to Jivan Mukti. when we get to this skanda, and I think most of you know that this poisonous snake does bite Raja Parikshita. But Raja Parikshita doesn't know that. He's already liberated, Jivan Muktihi. So he doesn't know that the snake bites him. He doesn't know that the body dies because he knows that he is Brahman, like Rishi Shuka. Analyzing these subjects more, there is a famous teaching in Bhakti Shastras. Many of you know this. If you don't, please try to remember this. Yena kena prakarena manaha Krishne niveshayet. I will share it again. Yena kena prakarena. In simple English, this first section means that means, this means, any means. That, this, any. Manaha, everyone's clear about manaha. Krishne, Krishne means in Krishna, not Krishna. Krishne means in Krishna. Niveshayet means to absorb, to reside. By that means, by this means, by any means, one's mind should be living in Krishna. This is the teaching of Bhagavata. This is our practice. When, how this is achieved is less relevant than this actually being achieved. Adding more clarity to this. In our culture, liberation typically follows Bahikarana sadhana, which means purification. Then, when one is purified, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listening, reflecting, contemplating. This is not new to anyone, correct? The best students, they are liberated with Shravana, not Nididhyasana. They don't need to contemplate. It is just listening that leads them to liberation. The next best students, reflecting. The least best students, it's contemplating. That's my subtle jab at all of us. And even that, how much is required just to contemplate, isn't it? Today, while you were contemplating, you were all thinking about me. I mean that in a non-egotistical way. What happened? Is he traveling right now? He doesn't care about me, meaningful mornings? So, when your mind is absorbed, how your mind is absorbed is less relevant than these methodologies. In a very straightforward way, Kamsa is more enlightened than us, you know? He thought about Bhagavan Krishna more than we think about Bhagavan Krishna. And this is also stated beautifully in Sri Ramana's Upadesha Sara. If you follow his flow of teachings, he begins with karma, but the ends is stated in the middle, which is bhakti. And then later on, he brings in jnana. The implication being is that one has to be established in their own heart, in their own self. So Sri Ramana's teaching, it doesn't matter if it's karma yoga or bhakti yoga or jnana yoga, but this is what needs to be felt. So as you continue to reflect on these subjects, yena kena prakarena manaha Krishne Niveshayet. I'm sharing lots about what we have journeyed through thus far, because the 11th skanda is intense in terms of jnana. Today I'm going to complete chapter 1, but starting in chapter 2, there's an intense portion of knowledge. So I want us to be ready for this. Srimad Bhagavatam describes the journey of a bhakta in how they seek. And this is overtly shared by the 6 questions Rishi Shaunaka asks on behalf of all of the seekers that are gathered in Naimisharanya. Do you all remember what Naimisharanya means? Please share in the chat. What was the etymology of this word? Tell me in English. Where is Naimisharanya? Good. Don't write North India, okay? This is not Google Bhagavatam. This is Vedanta and Bhagavatam. It is where the mind becomes quiet. When a bhakta's mind becomes quiet, they ask questions like, what is the greatest good for all beings? A bhakta with a quiet mind is never thinking about themselves only. All beings. Next, what is the purpose of an avatara? And if you analyze this, it goes from more logical to more faithful. Number 3, what is the performance of avatars? Number 4, what is the passings of avatars? And number 5, what is the play of avatars? Everyone's seeing that shift from logic to faith. For a typical student, they'll ask, why does Bhagwan take avatar? But for the one who's more faithful, you just tell me about the avatar. I don't need to know why or why not. Just tell me. It'd be like asking my kids, why are you playing right now? Right? It's not logical. They're simply playing. And the 6th question is, what is the home of dharma? Reflecting on this, what is the home of avatara? What is the home of avatara? Bhagavan Krishna, we have understood from Bhagavad Gita, he comes to establish dharma. Yes? So an avatara means the one who manifests and unmanifests. So a bhakta knows that Bhagavan will unmanifest, but what does his home become? And if you've not interpreted this yet, it is Bhagavatam. Bhagavan Krishna will openly share that I have become Bhagavatam. The first question is, what is the greatest good? This is the same question Prince Arjuna asks. What is Shreya? And Bhagavan continues with Bhagavad Gita. Same question is asked here, but it's in orientation to avatara. These are the avatars that facilitate us to grow from logic, was one of the words I used, or that can be changed to belief, to faith, to trust. It's specified the different skandhas are leading us to be more trusting. All begins with Brahma. Brahma here, I mean Brahman, infinity. Avatara, 0. is Bhagwan Narayana. Why I'm sharing 0? Because in a Bhakti Shastra, Bhagwan Narayana in language is the same as Brahman. Then, Avatara half is Bhagwan Brahma. Bhagwan Brahma, that is the creator. Once these two are established, Bhagwan Narayana and Bhagwan Brahma, that is more of the Vedanta side. According to Bhagavata, the avatars now start. They are, number 1, Sanaka Kumara. 2, Varaha. Before all of these, I'm saying Bhagwan Varaha. 3, Narada. 4, Naranarayana. They're treated as one. 5, Kapila. 6, Dattatreya. For some of you who are not catching all of this, it's okay. Our writers do catch all of this. They get these recordings regularly, and they'll write this. It's on our website, okay? 7, Yajna. 8, Rishabha. I will share again how Rishabha relates to the 11th skanda. 9, Prithu. I've been sharing a lot about Raja Prithu lately in terms of Prithvi Seva Sangha. 10, Matsya. 11, Kamatha, which now more casually is known as Kurma. But in Bhagavatam, Kamatha, which is the tortoise. 12, Dhanvantari. 13, Mohini. 14, Narasimha. 15, Vamana. 16 is Rama, but the Parashu Rama. Rama comes many times. This is the Parashu Rama, the Rama that uses an axe. 17, Vyasa. 18, Rama, a Rama that we know, sometimes described as Kodanda Rama, the Rama with a bow. 19, Balarama. It's like Bhagavan ran out of names. So Rama this, Rama that, Rama over here. This is also Rama, but Bala Rama. No axe, no bow, just muscles. Number 20 is Krishna. 20 is Krishna. 21, Buddha. And 22, Kalki. So a bhakta's journey is these 6 questions. Bhagwan's journey from Bhagwan Narayana to Bhagwan Kalki. The 11th skanda, the subject matter is mukti, or liberation. This is known as the head of Srimad Bhagavatam. 10 is the heart, 11 is the head, and that's why sometimes known as Ekadashi. In a Ekadashi Vrata, the fasting on the 11th day, the implication is that the 11th entity is the mind. That is more powerful than the organs of action, the organs of perception. I'm reading to you verse 16, a very, very, very serious verse. I think a lot of you know about this kata, So I'm confirming it for you. For those who don't know, you'll understand how serious this is. This is Rishi Shuka speaking to Raja Parikshita. Evam pralabdha munayaha tan uchu kupita nrpa jana yishyati vo manda musalam kula nashanam. Evam pralabdha munayaha. When the munis were tricked, they were tried to be made fool of. Tan uchuhu kupita nirpa. Raja Parikshita, these munis spoke to these boys with great anger. Jana yishyati vo manda. What will be born from this womb will be inert. What will be born from this womb will be inert. Specifically, musalam. Musalam is a pestle. Everyone can see that a mortar and a pestle. It just looks like a stone rod, essentially. And what will this musalam do? Kula nashanam. The way a pestle grinds seeds and herbs and so on, this will powder your family. This will powder your lineage. Who are these young boys? When Bhagavan Krishna was living in Dwaraka, countless rishis came to live with him. Obviously, they wanted to be close to Bhagavan. They wanted to see Bhagavan. And as long as those rishis were in Dwaraka, Bhagavan couldn't do anything to Dwaraka because those rishis were there. They needed to be protected and they are powerful. So one day, Bhagavan Krishna asked them, encouraged them to go on a yatra to Pindaraka, which is near Dwaraka. As they're journeying to Pindaraka, Bhagavan Krishna's family, his children, his grandchildren, they were all being goofy. Maybe that was devolving into being careless. And at one point they saw this group of rishis who were traveling and they dressed up Samba. Samba is Bhagavan Krishna's direct son. They dressed him up like a woman, particularly making the mid area quite big, like he was pregnant. And Samba was known to be the most beautiful amongst the children and grandchildren. So they took Samba to these rishis and said, this young woman is pregnant and she's too shy to ask you what the gender of this baby will be. Can you please tell us? And these are not ordinary rishis. Like, as an example, Rishi Vashishta is there, Rishi Narada is there. And that's when they share that what will be born will be inert. Specifically this pestle, and this will be the cause of your family's destruction. Once this was stated, the rishis continued, and all of these children and grandchildren were in shock because they know Bhagavan Krishna is their father, their grandfather. They know the greatness of the rishis. And eventually, when they unraveled that cloth, that pestle came out. It fell to the ground. And they were even more shocked. So they immediately went to Raja Ugrasena. He is the ruler of Dwaraka, even though it's Bhagavan Krishna, but technically it's Ugrasena. And they told him what happened. And lots of people were there. It's as if everybody knew that this happened, but nobody told Bhagavan Krishna. No one, not even Raja Ugrasena. So what did he do? He ordered that this pestle that powders other entities, that it should be powdered and then thrown into the ocean. Remember, they're on the west coast of Bharat, so the water is right there. And they did this, and the powder that was put into the ocean, somehow, this all got collected and washed to the shore, and this started to grow as eraka, which is a very sharp grass with thorns on it. It's not consumable, not useful. In this grinding also, there was a sharp piece that they couldn't grind. Imagine how much of resources they would have, but they couldn't grind it. So that piece was just thrown into the ocean. And then what happened, there's many versions. This is the version that I've come across. That piece was swallowed by a fish. That fish was caught by a fisher person. That fisher person caught that fish, opened the fish, found this piece, saw that this might be unique, sold it to a blacksmith, one who works with metals. That blacksmith then sold it to a hunter. ... One final shloka for everyone to reflect on. Everybody knew but Bhagavan Krishna. But Bhagavan Krishna is Chit. He's awareness. This chapter ends with this verse, verse 24. Bhagavanyata sarvartha Ishwaropi tadanyatha kartum naichad viprashapam kalarupyanva modata. Bhagavan sarva artha. Bhagavan Krishna knows the meaning of all. And that's what I've shared with all of you many times. What is the highest form of prayer? Silence. He already knows what you're thinking. You don't have to think it. Just be silent. Ishwaropi tadanyatha. And though he's Ishvara, the one who controls all, and he can undo all, kartum naichad viprashapam. He chose not to undo the curse of these vipras. Kala rupi anvamodata, because right now Bhagavan Krishna is in the form of time that destroys. Bhagavan Krishna has assumed this form of time that destroys, and so he sanctioned, he approved this curse. For those to whom this is very, very new, what Bhagavan Krishna is feeling right now is that the asuras have been corrected. Kamsa, Duryodhana, etc. But now he is sensing that the Yadavas are going to become the asuras. The Yadavas are his own family. And just like the asuras needed to be corrected, the Yadavas need to be corrected too. And that's how all of this is manifesting. Bhagavan Krishna, anyone who's trying to be like Bhagavan Krishna, lives and must live in an impartial way. Oh.